She gave up food for books. What the millionaire CEO did left everyone speechless at 3 a.m. The clock struck midnight, and a chilling stillness wrapped around the towering glass skyscraper. Unknown to the world, Sarah Thompson, the genius behind a billion-dollar tech empire, sat alone in her lavish office, surrounded by books that reached the ceiling. They whispered secrets. Each spine held mysteries that throbbed with a life of their own. But what captivated her the most was an ancient tome rumored to contain the key to unearthly knowledge. Just then, the air thickened, a powerful energy crackling like electricity. Shadows flickered on the wall. Sarah's heart raced. Everyone knew rich CEOs indulged in the best foods. But her? She had traded her gourmet meals for the written word. Friends worried. "It's not normal to live like this, Sarah," they cried. But they didn't understand that each page, each word pulled her deeper, consuming her very essence. The thrill of learning was her only sustenance. As the moonlight glinted off her desk, her fingers traced a peculiar symbol on that old book, a symbol she couldn't recall ever seeing before. Suddenly, a scream pierced the silence, a desperate cry echoing through the corridors of her mind. It wasn't just her imagination. The walls seemed to shudder. Was it merely a trick of the night? Or something far more sinister? Sarah felt a tightness in her chest, the lump rising in her throat. The whispers from the books grew louder, insistent. "Open it," they urged. Curiosity swirled like a storm inside her. What was hidden within? Would it unlock answers, unleash power, or bring chaos? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Sarah hesitated, trembling hands hovering over the book's cover. Her breaths quickened. The shadows danced around her, almost alive, and she could feel every spine-tingling chill running down her back. What if this story wasn't just knowledge? What if it drew her down a path from which there was no return? As she slowly opened the book, the world around her blurred, the words swimming in a dark, swirling abyss. What awaited her beyond those pages? As the cover cracked open, a gust of cold wind swept through the room, snatching at her hair and swirling the pages violently before they settled. The words on the paper glowed with a strange luminescence, bright enough to cast eerie shadows on Sarah's face. Her breath stilled. Each letter pulsed like a heartbeat, luring her deeper into its secrets. "Find the key," the words seemed to whisper, echoing in her mind, drowning out the last rational thoughts she clung to. What kind of knowledge were they promising? As she scanned the text, her stomach twisted. This was no ordinary book. It was a compendium of rituals, incantations, and the names of beings that should never be summoned. Sweat trickled down her back. Was she ready for this? Just then, a crack rang through the silence, reverberating off the glass walls. Sarah jumped, glancing around the room, her heart pounding like a war drum. The shadows flickered again, creeping closer. Something was watching her. Goosebumps raised on her arms. The thrill of forbidden knowledge suddenly felt more sinister. "Stay focused," she whispered to herself, forcing her eyes back to the page. The words began swirling and shifting, coiling into serpentine shapes that threatened to unread themselves. A shiver ran down her spine. She could almost hear the book snickering at her hesitation. "Open it fully," they urged, as if possessing an intelligence beyond her comprehension. She felt pulled, compelled, like a moth to a flame. What if this was exactly what she needed to elevate her empire? What if it could give her the edge over her competitors? But at what cost? Voices echoed in her mind, discordant and pleading, a chorus of those who had sought knowledge and paid with their very souls. The next page was a blank canvas. Taking a deep breath, Sarah plunged a trembling finger to recite the first incantation. The air shifted, growing dense and electric. She felt something shift within the room. It was as if the walls were breathing, closing in tighter. Shadows twisted with purpose, creeping towards her like hungry beasts. What is happening? Sarah stammered, panic clawing at her throat. Had she unleashed something too great? Suddenly, the temperature plummeted. Frost formed on the edges of her desk, snowflakes tumbling through the air without explanation, settling like tiny memories on the floor. The shadows wove together, forming a dark figure that rose from the darkness. Its voice was a low growl, rippling through the air. You seek the truth, Sarah Thompson? But the truth can be consuming. Her body went rigid. She felt both terrified and entranced. Who are you? She demanded, her voice wavering. I am the keeper of what you unleash, a guide deceived by ignorance. The figure's eyes glowed with malicious glee, piercing right through her, but it wasn't just fear she saw reflected in those depths. It was hunger. Sarah's mind raced. Was this a mistake? Would she lose herself in this pursuit? Suddenly, the shadows erupted, swirling violently around her. The pages began to tear themselves from the book, each one screaming into the void, demanding recognition. You need to decide. Knowledge or your soul? Heart-thumping, Sarah felt drawn into an abyss, deeper than anything she had confronted before. The weight of destiny bore down on her, choking her resolve. She could turn back or step forward into the unknown. The room seemed to pulse, beckoning her choice. Which would she embrace? And there, at the edge of her decision, everything froze. Would she succumb to the ancient knowledge, or was it time to face the darkness head-on? What would be unveiled next? In that moment, a primal instinct wrestled inside Sarah. The shadows danced dangerously close, whispering promises that twisted like barbed wires in her gut. Should she defy the warnings, or crush the burgeoning curiosity? Knowledge, she breathed, the word tasting like ash on her tongue. With a sudden burst of defiance, she leaned into the perturbing glow of the book. As if recognizing her resolve, the shadows paused, swirling in anticipation around her. Very well, the dark figure crooned, a sinister smile carving its way on its ethereal face. Let the truth unfurl. Sarah's heart raced as she recited the incantation aloud, each word striking the atmosphere like a bell tolling for the damned. The air crackled with energy, vibrant yet foreboding. Energy surged through her veins, igniting her senses. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. As she finished, the room trembled violently. The floor shook as if the house were alive, groaning under the weight of awakening powers. She staggered back, her mind reeling, feeling the barriers of her understanding collapsing. Distant thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the chaos inside. The pages of the book whirled around her once more before everything shifted. Images shattered through the air, flickering landscapes, faces twisted in agony, and whispering voices that hovered just beyond her comprehension. There was a prophecy buried deep in the spirals of the text, a dark path unfolding. See? The figure beckoned, its voice sultry and coaxing. You are not alone. Others have come before you, and many will follow. Suddenly, a flash of light shot through the chaos, a vision of Sarah, alone in a vast expanse, holding the same book, but now covered in dust, worn and aged. Shapes flickered beside her, figures of those who had refused to heed the warnings. They were trapped, a silent scream echoed in their eyes. She could feel their despair, raw and seeping, tugging at her heartstrings. Connecting her to a fate she desperately wanted to avoid. Join them, the figure hissed, its tone dripping with mockery. Or seize your destiny. No! Sarah cried, panic flooding her voice as images of failure spiraled around her, layering over one another like waves crashing into the shore. She felt every heartbeat souring into doubt, drowning in despair. Yet, a spark of defiance ignited within her. She reached deep inside herself for strength, the courage to defy fate. "I'm not afraid. I will not become a ghost." The shadows recoiled, and for a brief moment, the room fell silent, trapped in a cocoon of tension. Sarah grasped the book's spine, feeling its power pulse beneath her fingertips. There was a surge, an unseen force colliding against her resistance, as if the universe itself was drawn to her anguished plea. The entity snarled, shaking with rage as the light around Sarah blazed brighter, enveloping her. She could feel a warmth, a sense of purpose that felt foreign yet familiar. It was a tether to all that was good, reminding her of hope in hopelessness, and then the walls of reality warped and blended, opening a portal of shining fragments of potential futures. Each glimmer held promise, one twisted with despair, another glowing with boundless opportunities. Faces and places flickered like a film reel, drawing her closer with every passing heartbeat, but which would she choose? The book vibrated in her hands, eager to lead her down the path to power, but at what cost? Struggling against the growing chaos, she made her decision. She would not let fear guide her. "I choose to face the darkness," she shouted, surrendering to the moment as if freeing herself from chains. The shadows recoiled once again, and in that instant, she saw it, a key shimmering just beyond the veil of illusion, glistening with potential. It hovered in the air, inviting her to seize it, to unlock a power greater than herself, but before she could grab the key, the figure shrieked, "No! You cannot have that!" The scream echoed through the room like the shattering of glass. As the darkness surged back in, Sarah felt reality slip from her grasp. What awaited her? Would she claim the key, or would it slip away into the darkness she fought to escape? Time hung suspended, and as the thrust of her decision surged in the air, the shadows swirled, ready to take their next victim. In the brink of chaos, Sarah stood at the precipice step, heart racing, unsure if she would rise or drown in the depths of unfathomable knowledge. But one thing was clear, the reckoning was just beginning. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the world began to collapse around her. The key shimmered tantalizingly, a beacon of hope breaking through the suffocating darkness. Suddenly, instinct kicked in. She lunged forward, arms outstretched, fingers grazing the cool metal. A surge of energy coursed through her, potent and intoxicating. The moment she grasped the key, a shockwave rippled through the room. Bright light erupted, blinding her for a brief second. She felt as if she had been thrown into a volcano, heat washing over her, consuming her. "Stop! You don't know what you're unleashing." The figure roared, its voice an echo of absolute fury. The shadows writhed, swirling around her like a tempest, every dark whisper now a scream of protest. She reveled in the newfound power coursing through her, the strength embedded deep within. Shadows flickered and lunged as if trying to break her grasp. Panic surged through her. What had she done? The figures from her vision, those lost souls, began to materialize around her, mouths wide in deafening screams, their fear palpable. Their dread radiated against her skin, a cold sweat forming at the nape of her neck. "Listen!" One moaned, its voice barely a whisper beneath the chaos. "You must destroy it. It will consume you too." "No!" Sarah shouted, fighting to maintain her grip. It was then she understood the key. This ancient power wasn't simply a tool. It demanded loyalty, sacrifice. The figure laughed, a chilling sound that sliced through the tumult. "You're bound to it now, Sarah. You cannot let go, for to relinquish the key would mean abandoning your fate, and you will fail." Struggling against the awakening shadows and the weight of their despair, Sarah realized they were warnings. A path lay before her, a mystical maze cloaked in danger. With every heartbeat, she could feel the promise of knowledge and solutions to the world's chaos that awaited her. In that instant, adrenaline coursing like wildfire, she faced the dark figure. "Is my fate yours to dictate? I choose my path." The shadows wriggled angrily, engulfing the book in a swirling mass of darkness as if to snuff out her defiance. But she wouldn't yield. Clenching the glowing key tight, she concentrated on that spark of power and hope that flickered in her chest. The room exploded with light, a blinding force engulfing the shadows. They screamed in rage, images swirling chaotically, desperate to drown her in despair. Yet, she pressed on. A vision appeared at her side, herself, older, golden light cascading around her, standing triumphant. Had she managed to conquer the darkness? It felt like an answer to her yearning, an echo of the life she wished to lead. "See," the figure hissed frantically, "the cost of your hubris." But Sarah wouldn't listen. The shimmer of the key pulsated brighter, illuminating faces that had once been mute in terror, now transformed with relief and laughter, united, emboldened by her resilience. Just as she thought she had gained the upper hand, the figure lunged forward, trying to seize the key from her grasp. A chilling wind whipped through the room, and she felt it tugging at her, yearning to strip the power away. In that moment, disorientation swept over her, and the shadows dimmed for a heartbeat. Was this power too much? Like a rubber band stretched to its breaking point, did she dare to go further? "Make your choice, Sarah," the figure shouted, desperation streaking its voice. "Claim your destiny, or lose yourself forever." The ground quaked beneath her feet. A cacophony of wailing spirits echoed as if the very walls held on to their plight. The air thickened with anticipation, and she clutched the key tighter, heart pounding like a war drum. Could she handle the responsibility that came with such power? Would she stay true to her vision, or would the shadows drag her down into the depths of their despair? As light warred with darkness around her, Sarah faced the ultimate question: could she walk the fine line between salvation and destruction, or would her next choice seal her fate, swallowing her whole? Her heart raced as possibilities surged within her. Could she find the strength to transform the curse of power into a gift for everyone? Just then, a realization struck her. What if there were hidden truths even deeper than the shadows had revealed? With the weight of the world upon her, she mustered her resolve. "No. I'll face them all." As she spoke those words, everything burst into chaos again. What lay beyond the shadows? What truths were kept hidden in that darkness? And would she come out unscathed on the other side? Light and darkness twisted into a frantic dance around Sarah, chaotic and unyielding. The power from the key surged like a tidal wave, threatening to drown her beneath the weight of its intensity. But that vision of herself, glowing and victorious, kept her grounded. "Focus. You're stronger than this," she shouted, voice trembling but steady against the cacophony of anguished spirits. She felt the presence of the lost souls, their pain, their regrets, an ocean of sorrow threatening to sweep her away if she faltered. "You can't resist your fate," the dark figure murmured, its voice now a haunting lullaby, laced with false comfort. "Just let go. Allow the shadows to guide you. It's easier that way." A shiver coursed down her spine. Easier? She didn't want easy, she wanted clarity. Resolution pulsed through her as she squared her shoulders. "I won't abandon them," she declared. "Not now. Not ever." With every ounce of strength she could muster, Sarah raised the key high, channeling its brilliance. The light exploded outward, illuminating the room and revealing the faces of those trapped in turmoil. Hope. Courage. It surged through the room like a ritual prayer, electrifying the air, but the figure lunged again, this time a moment of raw desperation fueling its attack. Shadows whipped like a storm, reaching out with gnarled hands, trying to snatch the key from her grasp. "You'll regret this," it hissed, and in that instant, its true face flickered, a mask of loss and unfulfilled dreams twisted into rage. Sarah's heart ached with understanding. It wasn't just her battle, it was theirs. Beneath that rage lay a deep well of pain. "I won't be a part of your cycle any longer." She thrust the key forward, letting the light surge with all her defiance. As the light clashed with the dark, a blinding eruption echoed through the room. Sounds of despair morphed into gasps of hope, tales of darkness fading against the brilliance. For a fleeting moment, silence settled, profound and heavy, but peace was a fragile thing. Suddenly, from the shadows, countless whispers began to weave a chilling chorus, a blend of terrifying advice. Run, Sarah. You're in over your head. The room warped as the shadows reformed, collapsing around her like a net. She struggled, but the darkness clung tight, attempting to pull her back into its cold embrace. Every fearful whisper sunk into her bones, every regret from those lost souls tightening like chains around her heart. Stay strong. You're not alone. A voice cried out through the thick darkness. It was a voice she recognized her own. From somewhere deep within, a sense of belonging sparked anew, the breath of her own defiance igniting a wild hope. Release them. She shouted, picking up the shimmering key once more. This time, she wasn't just wielding it but allowing it to guide her through the chaos. She remembered the faces of her loved ones, the people who had believed in her when she felt the weight of the world. It was their hope that fueled her. As she forged ahead, a narrow path began to clear through the mass of shadows, desperation altering to ferocity. Spirits erupted with renewed strength, swirling around her, lifting chains off old wounds, showing their support. We believe in you. They echoed, amplifying her resolve, and there it was again, the figure, that dark entity, now writhing with unmistakable fury. You can't escape. I am your past, your fate. I am my own fate. Sarah shouted, hurling the key forward as the brilliance surged anew, illuminating her courage and the countless souls at her side. The room erupted once more as light collided with shadows, the explosion palpable. Yet, just as her hope soared, she felt something fracture inside her, a flicker of doubt. Had she truly freed anyone, or had she only delayed the inevitable? And in that moment, a haunting laugh echoed in her mind, dark and familiar. You'll never escape your truth, Sarah. Her heart raced. Could the road ahead be filled with more than just shadows? What awaited her on the other side of this battle? Would the light keep breaking the darkness, or would new horrors unfurl as she dared to step deeper into this unknown? The air pulsed with tension as Sarah stood at the heart of the chaos. The shimmering key felt both heavy and light in her hand, a paradox that echoed the swirling emotions inside her. As the light dimmed momentarily, she caught a glimpse of the dark figure, its true form intermingling with the shadows, almost human yet eternally lost. Your defiance is futile. It roared, a symphony of anguish resonating in its words. These spirits? They're but echoes, you can't save them. The shadows thickened, winding around her like grasping hands, pulling hard as if to crush her resolve. Let them go. She cried, her voice slicing through the despair. But with each word, doubt clawed at her heart, gnawing at her confidence. She felt the weight of uncertainty creep in like a cold fog. What if this was for nothing? In response to her turmoil, the whispers grew frantic, a clamor of skeletal voices weaving tales of despair, regret, and failure. Just walk away, they're not worth it, you'll lose yourself. A choking sensation filled her throat, each whisper striking a chord, vibrating through her very core. Then, a figure materialized amidst the growing shadows, a girl, no older than Sarah, her eyes glimmering with anguish. You can't hold them forever. She pleaded. You're only extending their suffering. A rush of anger surged within Sarah. How could she abandon them? You don't understand. She yelled back, her voice fierce as a lunging flame. I want to let you go through this alone. I want to. But the dark figure laughed. It twisted and morphed, taking on other familiar forms, faces of loved ones, friends whose smiles now dripped with bitterness. See? They don't want to stay. It mocked. They want you to surrender. The blast of doubt shook her fiercely. Her vision blurred for a moment as tears stung her eyes. Each spirit in turmoil felt like a weight against her chest, heavy and unrelenting. Yet just as she was about to crumble, the key pulsed, shimmering like a beacon. The vibrant light now seemed to speak, choose your path. With newfound determination, Sarah gritted her teeth and thrust the key outward. I refuse to let your lies consume me. The brilliance exploded around her, a singular light challenging the advancing darkness. The wretched shadows flinched at the intensity, writhing and slithering away, but not without a fight. The girl was still there, eyes wide, showing flickers of hope. Sarah reached out, and in that instant, a connection buried deep surged up. You're more than this pain. She called to the girl, and squeezed the key tighter. You're in control. As the light shifted, the spirits around them began to rise, their faces morphing from anguish to soft wonder. Freedom swirled in the air, sparking where light touched shadow. But the dark figure, enraged and desperate, lunged toward Sarah. Stop. You can't do this. It bellowed, its voice guttural and raw. And just as its hands grazed the edge of the light, Sarah felt the power of the key surge through her again, a flash of pure energy. No! She howled. She stood her ground. The confrontation felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, daring fate to push her. Light and shadow collided, but she could feel a shift. Something was about to break. Suddenly, the darkness fractured. An ear-splitting shriek filled the room, twisting like a dying scream. Cracks splintered through the shadows as if an immense force clawed at the reality around them, yet through it all, a voice cut through deep, resonant, filled with an undeniable authority. Courage is what anchors you, Sarah. Stand firm. The ground trembled beneath her feet, shaking her to her very core. With every ounce of strength, she prepared for the inevitable fallout. What had she unleashed? As the shadows twisted and writhed, something new began to emerge from the chaos, pulsating at the edges of her vision. It shimmered ominously, beckoning her to change her fate once more. Will it be salvation, or destruction? A whisper taunted from the depths. Only you can decide. Knowledge bubbled to the surface, a truth she barely dared to grasp. What would it cost her, this second choice? With a heart racing against the storm, Sarah faced the unknown, ready to confront whatever lay in store. Would she rise to be the light, or would she succumb to the darkness that still lingered just beyond her reach? The shadows writhed, begging to consume her light, but Sarah stood defiant. She felt every pulse of the key, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. Each beat reminded her of a choice that threatened to worm its way into her head and dismantle everything she fought for. No, she whispered, gritting her teeth. The air crackled with the tension of the moments that hung like a heavy blanket, pressing down on her sanity. I won to lose them. The dark figure recoiled with a chilling screech, as if her unwavering spirit was more potent than the chaos surrounding them. It twisted its form again, taking on an even terrifying appearance. Cloaked in despair, its eyes glowed with a malevolence that struck right at her core. You're just a child playing with things you don't understand. It hissed, each word dripping with venom. Sarah took a step back but quickly steadied herself. Panic surged through her veins, but she refused to let fear win. The spirits were rising, their energies aligning behind her, transfixed by her resolve. They spun around, their faces clearing, moving toward the light as if she were the catalyst of hope they had been waiting for. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed through the room. The shadows sizzled, retreating momentarily from the brilliance of the key. She could feel the air change, crackling with potential energy, the fabric of their reality bending toward a new destiny. Choose. The voice from the depths roared, now filled with urgency. Will you tether yourself to their pain, or will you set them free once and for all? Sarah's heart raced. It felt like a literal breaking point, a fissure threatening to consume everything. If she pulled them from the shadows, what might that cost? Where would it leave her? Freedom or destruction? Her own words echoed back to her. Each sounded more like a challenge than a comfort. The dark presence screeched as it flailed against the light, but Sarah felt the strength of the spirits behind her. They wanted liberation. They wanted to be unshackled. I will not abandon them. She screamed, thrusting the key outward again. The energy exploded, engorging the space with warmth and vibrant colors. The long-forgotten whispers of hope enveloped her, pushing against the icy claws of despair, the dark figure twisted in agony. "You fool!" it shrieked, "you think you can save them? They only want you to feel this pain. Don't you see?" "No!" she shouted, her voice slicing cleanly through the chaos. "They deserve more than this torment." Just then, a flicker of radiant light burst forth, illuminating every shadow in the room, shattering the tyrannical hold the figure had over them. For a moment, pain and sorrow became threads of silver glistening chances to break free. The spirits, once trapped in misery, began to respond. Their forms rose, shifting from burdened souls to radiant beings filled with brightly colored light. Sarah saw the girl who had spoken to her before, her face transforming into one filled with gratitude. But just as victory seemed clawing at arm's reach, the darkness coalesced, lashing out in a wild frenzy. "You will pay!" it shrieked, its voice raw and laced with desperation. The ground shook violently beneath her feet again, but Sarah stood unwavering, the key in her hand pulsating brightly, the tremors of the earth not enough to shatter her resolve. Instead, it ignited the power within her. "You're wrong. They're not lost. I'm not lost. We're taking back what's ours." With a fierce roar, she unleashed the full strength of the key's energy. Time seemed to halt as a brilliant wave of light flooded through the room. The shadows recoiled dramatically, revealing hidden forms, and amidst this newfound clarity, a familiar face emerged. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she recognized one of the spirits standing before her, able to speak, able to feel. "Is it you?" she gasped, hope and doubt colliding within her heart. Then, an eruption of darkness washed over, twisted remnants surged toward the girl, molding a blend of fading light and fierce shadows. The dark figure was not done yet. The confrontation was spiraling beyond her control. Would she have the strength to see this through to the end? "Sarah," the flickering spirit cried, "what will you decide?" And just as she prepared to answer, an unnerving silence fell, enveloping the space like a shroud. In that moment, everything felt suspended. The power she wielded hummed and throbbed in her hand. Salvation remained imminent, but was she truly ready for the price it demanded? "What is left to lose?" she whispered, wondering if she had enough resolve to not only save them but also herself. The silence was suffocating, a thick fog of anticipation hanging in the air. Sarah's fingers tightened around the key, her heart racing as she faced the dark figure that loomed like a storm cloud above her. It pulsed with fury, a whirlpool of despair eager to drag her under. "Your bravery is foolishness," it taunted, a voice now laced with desperation. "You think you wield control, but you are nothing but a spark before an inferno." Sarah's resolve flickered, doubt creeping in like a serpent winding its way around her thoughts. Could she truly save them? The question clawed at her. The spirits behind her glimmered faintly, their forms flickering like candles in a rushing wind. She was the anchor they had placed their hope upon, and yet, the weight of that expectation was enough to crush her. "Sarah!" the girl spirit cried again, her voice pivotal, fragile as glass. "You have the strength. You can end this." The flickering light pulsed, intertwining with Sarah's own heartbeat. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her feet, a deep rumble, a warning. Shadows slithered forward, tendrils reaching for her like hungry hands, testing the barriers of her courage. "Do you really think they wish to be freed?" the figure bellowed, moving forward with a nightmarish sneer. "They're tethered to you now. Their pain is yours, their anguish your burden. This is your doing." Pain coursed through her veins as its words burrowed deep, teasing out her fears. What if freeing them cost her everything? Sarah's mind reeled back to moments shared with each spirit, a laughter, a smile, a gentle whisper of reassurance. They deserved peace, yet, the darker essence of loss threatened to engulf her. With the key pulsating more fiercely than before, she faced it head-on. "I don't care," she shouted, her voice rising against the storm. What is a burden compared to freedom? I will not let you win. The shadows recoiled as if struck. The air around her crackled with strength. She reached out with the key, feeling an eruption of warmth surge through her hand and into her chest, igniting the depths of her soul. Look at them. They'll never be free if you continue to hold them. The words caught in her throat, and her gaze wandered back to the girl, who floated just beyond the reach of the swirling darkness, her eyes bright with determination. Then fight, Sarah. The girl urged, pulling Sarah's focus back into the moment. With everything you have. And like a wave crashing through a barrier, Sarah summoned the energy of the spirits within her. She pictured their faces, remembered their stories, the hollowness of their lives before her. Memories surged forward. She saw families disrupted, dreams shattered, and a world devoid of light. But now, there was hope, a fierce, potent hope. Let them go. She screamed, her voice amplified by the surge of energy. The key flared with intensity, illuminating the darkness like the dawn breaking through a stormy night. Tendrils shrank back, and for a brief moment, she felt a connection between herself and the spirits, a thread of shared purpose, but just as the shadows began to dissolve, a roar erupted. The dark figure howled with rage, a monstrous silhouette twisting violently, attempting to claw back into the light. You will suffer for what you dare to do. An eruption of power erupted from Sarah's heart, as she unleashed every bit of strength, the collective spirit of the arrayed souls behind her, the weight of despair cascading into unyielding resilience. She sent the energy spearing toward the darkness. But in the very last moment, just as she felt victory electrifying the air around her, time seemed to falter again. The shadows recoiled, and the figure's eyes burrowed deep into her own, searching. You think you can escape this fate? You are bound to the pain. Before she could react, confusion thickened, and a sensation sliced through her, her own past brought to the surface. She saw flashes of her life, moments where vulnerability loomed large. Would she fall to the same despair she sought to banish? Sarah. The substance of light behind her cried. With urgency, filled with despair and hope. Choose now. In that instant, the world held its breath, the air turning heavy, the shadows whispering secrets meant only for her. Did she dare to fight the darkness, or would she succumb to the very chains she sought to break? What if the price for victory was a sacrifice greater than she could bear? A violent shudder ran through Sarah as the weight of the figure's words seeped into her reality. Her mind raced. Could she pay the price? Her heart pounded, a relentless reminder that the stakes had never been this high. Choose, Sarah. The spirits behind her hovered closer, their collective gaze urging her on. She felt their raw energy beneath her skin, sparking her own memories of struggle, pain, and love, but that pain, was it enough to dredge up the strength she needed? Fear gnawed at her resolve. It wasn't just her life at stake, it was theirs too. The shattered bonds of their existence wove a tapestry of suffering that lay draped around her shoulders. The shadow loomed, the air thick with its malignant essence. Let them suffer. You can't save them, nor yourself. It is too late. A twisted grin spread across the figure's face, eyes gleaming with shadows that danced of despair. Sarah could feel its satisfaction, a sick thrill from her struggle, a vulture ready to pick at the carcass of her hope. No! She shouted, cutting through the desolation like a beacon. I will not falter. Your torment ends here. With renewed vigor, she brandished the key. Light erupted from the relic, bright and fierce, illuminating the dark corners of the chamber. The spirits surged around her, their forms coalescing into a radiant halo. Together, we are strong. Sarah gasped, feeling the weight of every soul that had ever hovered in limbo. They sang in her mind, their united chorus driving back the shadows. But the figure laughed, a cruel, echoing sound that drowned out the chorus of hope. Do you truly believe they'll forgive you? His voice twisted like a knife. You are their keeper of secrets, their warden of pain. The ground shuddered as fissures of darkness spread outward, threatening to swallow them whole. Sarah felt dizzy, trapped in the chaos of her choices, doubt clawing at the corners of her mind. Could she endure their judgment? Remember what you've done. It hissed, the undertone of its voice curdling her blood. Images flashed before her, moments of betrayal, of lost love, whispers of failure that hung like cobwebs in her past. They gripped her ankles, trying to pull her down. Stop! She cried out, gripping the key tighter, channels of radiance sparking from her hand. I can break free. I have to. Sarah pushed against the weight of her past, summoning every ounce of strength. The memories of laughter, of fleeting joy became her shield. It was enough. It had to be. The key pulsed, resonating with her heartbeat, and she felt an answering pulse from the spirits, an agreement forged within her. Together. They chanted, echoing in her mind, pushing against the darkness, the torrent of light streamed forth, swelling with their combined strength. Vivid colors erupted as the darkness screamed, a cacophony of sound that threatened to tear her apart. But she held firm, raising the key high. You cannot have us. You are nothing without our fear. As the brilliance intensified, the dark figure writhed, distorting in pain. Sarah saw its face twist with rage and despair, a reflection of her own fears magnified, and yet, something deeper flickered in the depths of its eyes, fear of being alone, of being unmade. Sarah! The girl's spirit flashed beside her, beaming and resolute. Make it right. Save them. In that fevered moment, Sarah understood this battle was not just for the spirits. It was for her redemptive light to shine. The fear, the pain, they held no dominion over her anymore, but before she could plunge forward, the darkness lurched back, its eyes smoldering with malice and defiance. You think this is over? This is just the beginning. A chill swept through her that shook her to the core. What had she awakened? As the light burst forth like the crack of dawn, shadows writhed, slick and relentless, seeking a way to slither back into her life. Just then, the figure dissipated into a swirl of shadow only to coalesce again, closer than before. A sinister laugh echoed and shattered her resolve anew. Sarah's heart sank into a cavern of dread. Had she merely set the stage for something even darker? The shadows surged forward, and Sarah knew she had to brace herself for the fight ahead. What if the battle she had begun wasn't just for their freedom, but for her very soul? Would she have the strength to confront the truth about herself? The chaos raged as shadows thrashed around Sarah, hissing their venomous whispers, encroaching on her like a tidal wave of despair. Her heart thumped in her chest, each beat louder than the last as the dark figure glared at her, a grotesque smile twisting its features. You think you're brave? It taunted, its voice now a low, haunting murmur that seeped into her soul. Your defiance is but the flicker of a candle in a storm. You cannot save them, and you cannot save yourself. But deep down, Sarah felt something shift. The spirits of the forgotten surrounded her, faces once twisted in anguish now pulsed with a collective strength. There was no giving in, no surrendering to the darkness. The waves of light swelling inside her ignited her resolve. Watch me. She shouted, breathing deep and channeling that energy. With a fierce shout, she held the key high, letting its luminescence blaze in defiance. I will be the light. I will be the hope. The room trembled as she summoned the power of the spirits behind her, the warmth flooding her like a raging river. Imagery danced through her mind, laughter, joy, moments shared with loved ones. And even in her darkest moments, they had been her anchor. How could she abandon them now? She envisioned their faces, each a beacon of light pushing back against the encroaching shadows. As the darkness recoiled, Sarah could feel the power of the key surge through her, brighter and stronger than ever before. You don't own me, and you don't own them. Together, we are free. She proclaimed, her voice resonating like thunder. A blinding flash erupted, forcing the shadows to falter, shrieking in panic. Her resolve bolstered by purpose, she focused on the vision of herself and the spirits rising together, triumphant. I choose freedom. Sarah's voice rang out, clear and resounding. For all of us. With that declaration, the light poured from her, pulsating in a brilliant wave that engulfed the room. The dark figure screeched, a blend of rage and terror. It flailed against the onslaught, shadows leaking away like sand through her fingers, but just as victory felt within her grasp, she felt another surge of doubt. "This isn't real," echoed the shadow. "You're a fool to think you can rewrite your fate." "No," she cried, the weight of its words pressing down, but she wouldn't yield. "I am my fate. I am not defined by my past." In that moment, an image bloomed in her mind, a symphony of spirits entwined with her, surging forward, filling the cold void with warmth, joy. They lifted her higher, bolstering her courage through shared pain and hope. "Let them go," the girl's spirit urged, her eyes bright with conviction. With a fierce thrust, Sarah hurled the key forward once more. The energy erupted, transforming the room into a cascade of light. Each flicker flickered a promise, a bond forged from struggle, fear, and ultimately, love. "I want to be a vessel for darkness," she screamed, the echoes of her spirit allies rallying together, creating a chorus of resistance. "Together, we will break the chains." The shadows writhed, dissipating in fierce gusts as they tried to snuff out her light. But as the specters surged around her, Sarah felt clarity overtake her uncertainty. With a final, resounding burst, she felt the key's power align with the energies around her, wrapping her in an embrace woven with resilience. "To freedom," she declared, conquering despair itself. The room erupted in a cataclysm of brilliance, shadows thrashing as they thinned and weakened before the tidal wave of unity. And in the ultimate moment of convergence, warmth enveloped her, brightening every corner of the room. The scream of the dark figure morphed into a wail of despair echoing through the walls before crumbling away, freeing the spirits trapped in its grasp. The room shifted, the shadows unraveling like smoke in the wind, revealing the strong figures of the lost spirits, radiant and free. She looked around, breathless flesh and blood beings where once only specters feasted upon her fears. A sense of belonging swelled in her chest, sharp and fervent. She hadn't just saved them, she had reclaimed a part of herself. Emboldened, Sarah stepped forward, key still glowing in her palm, and spoke, "You are free." They turned to her, faces aglow, mixing tears of joy and relief. Warmth wrapped around her, echoing love that harmonized in the air. The shadows were gone, but as she cast one final glance behind, she whispered, "You may return, but not for me." And as dawn broke over the horizon, she knew this moment defined her, her past, her present, her future. Here stood Sarah Thompson, no longer just the CEO cloistered in books, but a beacon of light rising from the ashes, a champion spurred to forge a different path, side by side with the souls she had freed. With the horizon pulsating with bright colors of a new dawn, she took a deep breath, anchoring her resolve in the power that surged through her. Now was the time for a new beginning. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm the love it craves. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this groundbreaking ending. Share this with at least 5 friends who need to witness this epic conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Join us on this incredible journey.